Hey you guys, I'm out here with Midnight, roaming around, enjoying this beautiful weather. And I wanted to touch base on something that I think not everybody, it was a pretty small portion of people that actually mentioned it, but I always like to address controversy if I feel like it's a teaching moment. And I feel like this is. Instead of just getting mad and deleting people or banning people from my page for saying things that I may not like or appreciate, I would much rather take a moment to speak to those people. So I had some people that were questioning why I had so many dogs. What I would say to that is that if you are wondering how many dogs a breeder should have, then you might want to go and take a look at other breeders and then do a comparison. You will find, oh my God, she's got ants all over her. You will find that I actually have much less dogs than most breeders. I don't have the space. Even at my new house, I just don't have the space. And I don't keep my dogs in such a way that I could do that. So most breeders, there's a couple different ways that breeders keep dogs. One of them is in kennels. So they'll have a big piece of property and they'll have a whole bunch of kennels in their on their property, and the dogs are kept in those kennels, and they may come out to work the animals or they may just stay in there their whole lives. There are other breeders that will literally keep their dogs inside of their house in kennels all the time. They don't have outside kennels, but they have those like indoor ones. And they keep them in there all the time. No different, just smaller space, but it's inside. Then you have other breeders that do what is called co-ownerships. So they'll keep a certain amount of dogs, but then out of every litter, they'll have like a really nice dog. And instead of keeping that dog, they will do a deal with a person so that that person has the dog, and then the breeder retains breeding rights on that dog. And there are oftentimes various different stipulations based upon the individuals involved. None of them are what I would consider to be, there's not like a standard practice that I'm aware of that I've seen so far. Everybody has different requirements. So that's one way you can do it. And then you also, same thing with a stud. You know, if it's a female co-ownership, then they have rights to breed the female, and if it's a male, then they have rights to use the dog as a stud. And then the other version of breeding is like me, where you have less animals. Midnight, back over here. Come. Midnight, come. Good girl. Good girl. She went way too far. Good girl. There's a good girl. There's a good girl. Did you get lost? There's a good girl. Did you get lost? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, a good girl. Yes, you did. Did you think I left? Did you think I left? You're so funny. Yes, you are. You're so funny. Yes, you are. You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. Oh, God, don't jump on me. You're funny. So then you have people like me who keep a small pack, right? We keep what I would consider to be the minimum breeding group. So just enough dogs to be able to maintain genetic diversity. And we keep them in our home like pets, and we love them. And yes, sometimes they're kenneled if a dog is in heat and isn't supposed to be bred or whatever it is. You know, there are times where the dogs are kenneled because that's just the way it is. You can't always have them together all the time. Hormones are a serious factor when you're dealing with an animal. It even is with people, but more so with animals like dogs and, whatever. Any kind of domestic animal goes through that kind of stuff. So anyway, other than that, our dogs are maintained out of kennels, and they're just a part of our family. And so those are the different kinds of breeders, and those numbers, vary. In order to be considered a commercial breeder, I believe you need to have 11 animals or more that are used for breeding. So that should tell you right there that even the law recognizes that in order to maintain a healthy breeding group, even for a hobby breeder, they do require a pretty significant amount of animals. And so, that's what we're doing. The reason I don't do a lot of co-ownerships, it's not that I'm not opposed to doing it at all, but the reason I don't really want to get into a habit of doing it is because they are notorious for breaking down. They're notorious for not working out. And because I'm not a huge breeder, I can't just sacrifice really good dogs for unscrupulous people. So I have to be very careful. And I have considered doing co-ownerships with like family members and stuff, but I would have to know the person very, 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 very well. I would have to trust them. They would have to have the utmost integrity for me to feel comfortable taking a risk like that. So anyway, it's something that I think everybody needs to do some research on. Go ahead, take a look at the breeders, especially the big guys. People like me who are really trying to take it seriously and not just be more of like a mom and pop kind of hobby. Maybe we breed 1 litter a year kind of thing. I genuinely take this seriously. I have long-term plans for this, so I am really trying to procure very good bloodlines, and I am trying to procure very good dogs. Let me just go ahead and reverse that. Dogs first. I don't care about bloodlines as much as I care about the individual dog in front of me. I've seen a lot of breeders turn their nose up at really good dogs because the pedigrees didn't match up with what they thought they wanted. So I care about the dog first, the pedigree last. But having said that, I have to be able to do it right, and that means having genetic diversity. So, that's why we'll have probably a minimum of around, 10, 11 dogs. So, and then we'll have our retirees, dogs that maybe we're not breeding anymore, but we want to keep. Psst. Come here. Come on. I see you watching them. You're a good girl. I see you watching them. You're a good girl. I see you. So, I use way too much. I'm so sorry. I watched some podcast and this guy was like, she never says she's so intelligent. And I'm just like, I say way too much. I need to stop. People are gonna think I'm dumb. Get out of the woman. She don't get out of those fire ants, I swear to God. Anyway, so that's my goal. Maintain genetic diversity, maintain good lines, avoid having to deal with people as much as possible to avoid potential conflict and losing valuable blood. I will continue to, grow my pack and switch out dogs as necessary. Most of our retirees will stay with us. The only ones that I will rehome are dogs that I think would be happier and better suited for a non-pack life. Okay, and I'll give you an example of that. Many people have commented that they think that Velocity would be happier in a home without a pack, and they're absolutely right. While she doesn't know anything differently than that right now, so what you don't know isn't going to hurt you, obviously, but she will be happier in a home with either one person or like one other dog, where not one person, but like one dog or possibly two, where she really gets more attention. That's really something that will make her feel a lot better. She'll build confidence. In a pack, she's always going to be the omega. Where are you going? Where are you going? You better get your butt back up here right now. Would you get your butt back up here? Would you get your butt back up here? You're a good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. So anyway, those are the only kind of dogs that we'll rehome. We're not the type of people to be like, you're not worth anything anymore, go away. Like, it's not like that at all. But we also don't want to keep a dog that would be better suited for a home outside of our home, because we care about our dogs and we want them to have a great life. So Velocity may not be happy here, but maybe one of her offspring would be. So there's just no telling. But like I said, we're in it for the long haul. We're in it to better the breed, and in order to do that, to make an impact, we have to be able to maintain our lines, and we have to be able to even develop lines, and that takes having enough dogs to be able to do that, right? Like I can take this female here and Midnight, and I can breed her to any one of these two males that I've got coming in, and then eventually I'll keep one of her daughters, and then I'll breed that female to one of my other males. And so, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see how having the ability to have multiple males allows me to continue on my line? And in the amount of years that it takes for me to run out of that space, well, then I can obviously bring, a new dog in. And so it's a long-term plan for success. And if you're going to make judgments, or if you're going to, have ideas about good breeders or bad breeders, then one really needs to do research on how to breed any animal correctly. It doesn't matter if it's a cow or if it's a horse or whatever. All animals that are purpose bred, meaning they're not wild, have to be bred with many factors in mind, and genetic diversity is one of them. So, and also, like I said, not all breeders are created equal. We're not all breeding for the same things. So finding people that are breeding the type of dog that you're specifically looking for can be very hard. And an example of that would be the original Neapolitan Mastiff is almost impossible to find. And that's because not enough of the breeders were breeding for the right type. And so what you hope for in situations like that are individuals that never gave in. Individuals that had enough breeding stock to maintain their own lines so that when a recovery effort is needed, they can be a saving grace for that breed. So it is important. In order to make judgments, you really have to know a lot about dogs and a lot about breeding in general. Not just this particular breed, but all breeds, right? Breeds that have had to have been saved, breeds that went through recovery, breeds that need to go through recovery. You know what I mean? Like, it is a very complex issue, and not one that should be judged based on very superficial things like this person has more dogs than I would consider to be normal. So it is my intention to educate. It would be easier for me to just not mention. I could very easily not show you guys video of these dogs. I could hide what I'm doing very easily. But I believe that you guys are capable of handling and understanding the truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie and sugarcoat things because it's easier than not saying anything. Lying by omission is still a lie, and I think you guys can handle it. This is a lot of people are learning new things. We're all kind of realizing that we may not be able to trust everything that's come out by any organization. So, whether it be the news or whatever, you know what I mean? It literally doesn't matter. It pays to do your research. So if somebody tells you something, listen to it and then do your research. And I invite you to do the same thing with anything that I tell you guys. I hope that you do. I really do. I hope that you go and you read and you look at studies that I've posted and you do your research and you become much more, informed on these subjects. That would just make me very happy to instill in people the habit of always researching things that they've been told. It'll save you so much in life if you just do your research. So anyway, I got to get back inside. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous day here today. It is I wish that you could feel this wind and the breeze. It is just astounding. So yeah. By the way, I have a piece of medical tape, like fuzzy medical tape, on my microphone in hopes that somehow that will help against the wind. I have no idea if that's going to work or not. So, for all we know, this may not even be usable. Hopefully it is. If you're watching it, it obviously was. So, anyway, y'all have a good day, and I'll talk at you later, okay? Bye! Look at, she always looks, bye! She's so funny. Good girl, Midnight.